Hey people, and welcome to my channel. I'm Mary, and today is Woo Woo Shit Wednesday, where every other Wednesday during spooky season, I share some of my paranormal and woo woo shit experiences with you. Stay tuned next week for a bonus video to celebrate Halloween. So this week's story takes place in 2023. At this time, I was talking to a guy who I ended up later dating, and we had been talking for, I want to say, about a month or so at this point. And I remember about 2 weeks before everything happened, I kept getting this strong feeling that a car accident was coming. And the specific day that I'm thinking of, a lot of times at work in the middle of the day, if I get overwhelmed or stressed out, I'll take a 5-minute break and I go outside to this petrified wood stump that we have, and it's under a tree, and I'll meditate for like 5 minutes, take deep breaths, just calming myself down. And I could not kick this feeling of a car accident coming. And I remember looking at my car and just being like, man, I'm going to be so sad if you get totaled in a car accident, because I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just felt so strongly that it was coming. So as me and the guy are talking, my birthday is coming up at this point, and I decide I really want to go to the beach at night. There's a specific place at the beach that I like to go to. I wanted to show him. I wanted him to meet my best friend, and I figured we could celebrate my birthday and make it like this whole little thing together. So we set that up, and I am over at my best friend's house a few days later, and I look at Faith and I'm like, hey, would you mind driving for this? So we would like ride together and then go pick up my now ex and then go to the beach. And her immediate reaction was no. And like she had like this guttural no. And I remember kind of sitting there stunned for a second, because that's very out of character for Faith. And I was just like, okay, that sounded like that was like a deep no. And then she kind of was like, I don't know what that was. And she was like, it's your birthday. I will drive. It's totally fine. So we end up going the day after my birthday. So on this day, I go to Faith's house and we're going to ride together. And when I get in her car, she's like, hey, I deep cleaned Pearl, which is the Toyota Prius that she drove at that point in time. And she was like, and I left my pop socket holder at the car wash. Do you think we can go that way to grab it, and then we'll just hop on the interstate from there? And I turn on the GPS and it tells us to go a different way. And I feel so strongly that we need to go that way, the way the GPS is telling us. But I don't say anything because I decide that I don't say anything because I don't want to be difficult. I want Faith to have her pop socket. I just find all these reasons to brush off what I'm feeling. And so we end up going towards the car wash, and we get to the car wash and her pop socket holder isn't there. And, she's bummed, but we're like, okay. So we get in the car, and like a minute or two after we leave the car wash, I have the GPS on my phone, and I accidentally drop my phone and it goes under my seat. So I undo my seatbelt, and I felt that strong feeling of a car accident coming. So I look at Faith and I said, hey, don't get in a car accident while I don't have my seatbelt on. And I reach down and I pick up the phone and I click my seatbelt back in. Within a minute's time, I click my seatbelt back in. I look down at the phone to make sure we're going in the right direction and to text the guy I'm talking to back. And then I hear Faith go, oh my God. And she looks up, and I look up, and I see that we are in an intersection. Faith and I are going 45 miles per hour, and there's a red light, and we have the green light. There's a car coming the opposite direction, and I look up to see that she has turned in front of us, and her passenger side headlight and the headlight on Faith's passenger side, aka where I'm sitting, I just remember thinking, oh, this is gonna hurt. And we collide head on those 2 points on the cars. And so the head-on collision is on my side of the car. I remember feeling the impact and hearing the crunch of the metal. And I remember, and I remember feeling my chest hit the seatbelt. Like I felt my body hit into the seatbelt and it hurt so bad. And then I look over at Faith and the airbags have all deployed and her head has gone forward. She like hit the steering wheel and comes back up and she has like a bloody nose. So if you've ever been in a car accident where airbags are deployed, then you know they kind of start letting off like this like toxic smell. And I'm just like, I just remember thinking, I have to get out of here. I can't breathe this in. And so I start trying to open the door, but my side of the car is what took the impact. So like it's all crumpled in. And so my door is stuck shut. And I just remember she hulking it open. And I get out of the car and I'm like going around to check on Faith. And Faith in situations like this tends to get really pissed off. Faith doesn't get mad about pretty much anything. I mean, she has her moments, but like when she's in a situation like this, you don't want to talk to Faith. You don't want to press her buttons. She's angry. And so she gets out of the car and she is pissed. And at this point, people are stopping because they saw the car accident. You know, it's a busy intersection, so people are whizzing by. And I remember this man coming up to me and he's just like, you need to go sit down. Like that was on your side of the car. Something could be wrong with you. You need to go sit down. And when I'm in a situation like this, my immediate reaction is I need to take care of everybody else. I need to make sure everybody's okay. So I go and I check on Faith. Faith has got a nosebleed. Her wrist is hurt, but she's okay. And the girl in the other car hasn't gotten out of the car yet. So I go around to check on her. And I remember she immediately started crying and she is okay. Eventually the cops come and we find out that the girl that was driving the other car didn't have a driver's license and borrowing somebody else's car. And so we have an ambulance there. We end up calling our parents. Our parents come. They're out there trying to clean up the mess because Faith's car is leaking everywhere. There's broken glass and stuff everywhere. It's just a hot mess. And during this time, I remember I kept feeling like I was worried that I cracked my sternum because that was how hard I hit the seatbelt. And then I kept feeling my stomach was just like, it felt like bloated and painful, but I'm just in such shock that like I'm not really paying attention to it. So Faith and I each go in the ambulance and they check us out and they're like, you know, you're not really going to be able to feel things right now. You need to give it a little bit of time. And then if something pops up, like you need to get yourself to the hospital. So we end up leaving. My parents drive me home. Faith's parents drive her home. And I just remember on the drive home, I'm like panicking that something's wrong, but also so stunned by what I just experienced, because if that car accident had happened literally a minute before, I would have been through the windshield. With the force that I hit that seatbelt, there's no doubt in my mind that I would have been through the windshield. So, you know, I'm like counting my lucky stars and I'm grateful to the universe that even though I didn't listen to myself, the universe still protected me. And a few days later, you know, as I'm like calming down from the car accident, this really intense bruising develops on my abdomen, like where the seatbelt went across my lap. And every time I would like bend over or do something, it would feel like my organs were like moving around in ways that they shouldn't. And I was just like, something's not right. I ended up going to urgent care, I want to say 2 days after the car accident happened. And I walk in and I show them my stomach and they're like, you need to go to the ER. This looks like it could be internal bleeding. It was not internal bleeding. I was okay. I went to the ER and they did a CT scan, and apparently the force of the impact caused a lot of tears in my abdominal wall, and one of them was like a 3-inch tear. But they didn't think like I needed surgery or anything, like it was going to heal on its own, but I needed to be really careful because how much weight I picked up and how much pressure I put on my stomach and stuff could cause me to have a hernia. So I really needed to watch it. And to this day, I still have like a really big scar in my abdominal wall from this accident where that 3-inch tear was. And it was a scary experience, but it was also one of those experiences that was, eye-opening, and that I was grateful that I was protected in that moment, and that there were so many moments where, like, I could have listened to myself and I chose not to. And then we ended up having to get a lawyer and all of that stuff to get a settlement for the medical bills from what happened to me, and just um honestly to get the other person to move through the stuff with their insurance, because I guess they were insured but they didn't have a license. It was very confusing. But they like didn't they wouldn't answer the phone calls from the insurance company, and so Faith was just kind of carless for a while, and it was a hot mess, but we got through it and it was okay. So I have a second story to share this week, and I'm going to go ahead and put up a trigger warning. So I talk a lot about how I have a lot of experiences where I know someone is going to pass, and this is one of those stories. This was one of the ones that really affected me, especially it was like one of the first ones that really, I don't know, made me kind of scared of my gifts and the amount of responsibility that comes with them. So this happened in 2011 when I was in my junior year of high school, and I was in my chemistry class. So my chemistry class happened at the end of the day. I can't remember if it was like 7th or 8th period. I just remember it was towards the end of the day. And in this class, I sat as far away from the door as possible, up towards the front of the room with like my friends over here. And I remember on this specific Friday, I'm sitting there with my friends, and there's this girl in my class who I didn't really know. I just knew her name, and she was a friend of mine, but I had never really talked to her besides like just saying hey and stuff like that. And she sat in the back of the classroom on the opposite side, as far away from me as possible. And I remember sitting in class this specific day, and I felt very drawn to her, and I looked at her, and this voice comes in my head, and it says she's going to unalive herself this weekend. And I feel this like, you need to get up and go talk to her. And I chose not to get up and go talk to her, because in my head I'm like, okay, Mary, that's morbid and crazy. You don't need to go talk to somebody, like you're going to make this weird. Like I just keep shutting myself down. And so I just, kind of play it off, continue talking to my friends, and I just keep feeling so drawn to her, but I ignore it. And so I go home for the weekend, have a good weekend, and I come back on Monday, and I remember the bell rings and we're all in our seats, and our teacher is kind of quiet and weird, and then all of a sudden all of the administrators come in, and my gut immediately sinks. Like I have this drop in my stomach, and I'm worried that what I knew was going to happen happened, and it did. And so the administrators start telling us that the girl that I was drawn to had unalived herself that weekend, and they offer us counseling, and they ask us to meet with them if there's any information that we can give them, which I don't have any information besides the fact that somehow I knew this was going to happen. And there was somebody in this class that I was very deeply connected with at this point, and I remember turning to him and just saying, how did I know that was going to happen? And he didn't have to say anything. I knew he understood. And we just kind of don't say anything, and we look at each other, and then I just remember this like wave of guilt and shame and just awful feelings coming over me, because I felt like it was my fault because I didn't listen to myself. I didn't say anything. So I ended up going to where they spread her ashes, and I remember going there and just losing it and just crying on the ground and just apologizing over and over again, because I felt like I could have changed the outcome. And I think, during Halloween and all of that stuff, there's all of this fun and spooky and paranormal and scary, and that's all fun and great, but there are there is a responsibility and a heaviness to this that I think is left out, and I think I wanted to bring up these two stories this week to show that it is so important that you listen to your gut, that you listen to yourself, that you don't let those little thoughts of like, well, what if I'm wrong, or I'm just being weird, or people are going to think this, if you don't let those thoughts stop you from listening, because it could make a difference. I know now, especially more than ever, that it's so important that I listen to myself. And I wish I had known that then, but I've also come to a place of acceptance if there is a reason that I didn't know that then, that I didn't trust myself then. And so I have kind of found peace and forgiveness for myself through that, in understanding that I am only going to know things when I'm supposed to know them. And if I didn't know it then that's what was supposed to happen, and it was supposed to affect me the way that it did. And next week, I promise I will get back into our paranormal experiences to celebrate the spooky season, but I felt that this was something that's important to bring up when we're celebrating this time of year where these kinds of gifts and experiences are all celebrated, and they are beautiful and they are to be celebrated, but they are also to be taken seriously. So, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.